So here's our opening screen for Adobe Illustrator. To create a new file, I can either go to Create New, or I can go to File, New. Either one works. Create New. You get a document, you get a screen that looks like this. We're going to be doing things for print in this class. So to design something, you want to select print as opposed to mobile or web or film and video. So we click print and it gives us some options. And I'm going to, for the moment, just create a simple page. I'm going to make it horizontal landscape just because it fits the screen a little bit better. When you go to print, it automatically sets our color mode to CMYK color, which is the color mode that we use for print. And it also sets it for high raster effects, number of pixels. So 300 pixels per inch, which is what we need for print. And I click create and I get this. And I'm going to go to Window, Workspace, Essentials, and I'm going to tell it to reset Essentials so it looks like yours probably does. Okay. And what I have here is we have the white area, which is what is going to print. And we have the gray area where we can work, but it won't actually print. So if I, for instance, make a circle like that, and I'm going to fill it with black, and I were to export this, file, export, I'll just save it for web. That's what it's going to look like. Okay, so what's white is going to print, or on the white background is going to print, and the gray area is not going to print. Okay, make sense?
Yes.
Okay. This area is called the artboard. And if you go down the toolbar here, there is an artboard tool. And if I click on that, it selects the edges of the artboard. Under properties, it tells you how big this is going to be. Right now, it's using a unit of measurement called pixels or points, which we will talk about more as time goes by. Actually, I'm going to stop this. Don't save. File, new. When we create our document, we can change the unit of measure that it's created in. Print. I'm going to change this to inches just to make life easier. 8.5 by 11, standard letter size. Again, CMYK and 300. Click create. Cripe. Oftentimes it's better to go over and just start over rather than fool around. But maybe it wasn't. New, inches, print, letter, horizontal, create. Okay. Click the artboard tool. Select that particular artboard. Oh, good. So since I've managed to do that, I'm going to go to view, let's see, view preferences, and I can go to units, and I can tell this to be inches. Click OK, and now this is in inches. And so if I want to make this smaller, so maybe I make this 5 by 5. And so I can reset the artboard up here on the properties using the artboard tool. Okay. If you hold down the shift key, you get a hand, or underneath the zoom tool, you have a hand. And you can use the hand to move the artboard around on your screen. You can use the zoom tool, and you can zoom in, and you hold the option key and you can zoom out. You can also hit Command plus and Command minus. That also makes it larger and smaller. Also up at the top under view, there's a zoom in and zoom out. And if you notice, next to zoom in and zoom out, here are the key commands for zoom in and zoom out, Command plus and Command minus. There's also fit artboard in window. So if I had zoomed in really close, I can hit Command 0 and it'll bring it back so it fits in the window. And then Command 1 makes it actual size. Okay. All right, next. So on the level of basic use of the tools, we've got a rectangle tool. And I can make a rectangle with it. I can make it as thin as I want that way, thin as I want that way. And if I hit Shift, I get a perfect square. Okay. Then if I want to fill it, I can go to Fill over here in the Properties and hit black, and it fills it. In this case, I'll make it white. If I want to change the stroke around this, I can click here and make the stroke thicker. We're going to be making designs that are 1 inch by 1 inch, so they're going to be fairly small. So you may want to use a thicker rule when we get to that point. I can also tell the fill to be none by clicking on the color for the stroke. I'm sorry, I can make the stroke none by hitting the color and hitting the strike through, which is no color. And go back like that. I can also tell the fill to be none, like that. And if the fill is none, I can edit copy, edit paste. So since the fill is none, the middle of it's transparent, like that. While if I set it to white, then it's not transparent. Okay. Every time you create an object in Illustrator, it's placed on top of the objects that have already been created. And so sometimes we want to move things forward and backward. I can do that if I select this object and I go to object, oh, come on. Object, arrange, send to back. In which case, and let's see, so I'll make that one fill with white. And then I can take that object, arrange, bring to front. And if I have three objects, I can take this object and go object, arrange, bring forward, and it'll go one step at a time, like that. Okay. Does that all make sense so far? Does anybody have questions?
It's a lot. It's hard to switch screens and see what you're doing at the same time because
Okay.
Photo Illustrator is so big. So it's just hard to
Now
keep
let
up.
me see something. Yes, so I am recording this class, so you can look at the recording after class too. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there are the video tutorials on LinkedIn Learning. Okay. So, underneath this rectangle tool, if I click on it, there's an ellipse tool, which gives me ellipses. And if I hold shift, come on, there we go. If I hold shift, then I get a perfect circle. If I go to the Polygon tool, I create a polygon. Yours probably doesn't come out with 3 points. Yours probably comes up. Wow. Just a second. So when you're dragging a polygon, you can hit an up arrow, the up arrow on your keyboard, and it adds sides. And if you hit the down arrow, it removes sides down to a triangle. It won't go any smaller because that would just be a straight line. And you can rotate it while you're working, while you're dragging. And if you hold the shift key, it'll stabilize. And then you would, well, and then I haven't gone into these tools yet. And then there's a star tool to make stars. And if you hit the up arrow, it adds points to the stars. And if you hit the command key on the Mac or the control key on the PC, then you can actually change the inner diameter. The inner diameter stays the same and the outer diameter changes. And usually I have to fool around with the keyboard to remember which key command or which key does this, but. And again, if I hold the shift key, it stabilizes its movement. And then finally, there is a line segment tool, but mostly we don't use the line segment tool because usually we don't want to just draw a single line, which is what this does. And again, if I hold my shift key, it'll either do vertical, horizontal, or 45-degree angles. You don't usually want to do line segments. Usually we have lines as part of an overall shape, like the line segments here are all joined and the line segments here are joined and so on. So there's a line segment tool, but we don't usually use it. Let's see. Okay. So these are the various shape tools. And then we have a selection tool. And this selection tool is to click an object and to move it. The black arrow, selecting and moving. Also, if we go out to the very outside the corners of our objects, we can also use it to rotate. And again, if we hold the shift key, it'll rotate in 45-degree angles. And if we let go of the shift key, it will rotate at any angle. And then we have the direct selection tool. Well, let's see, and okay, and this black arrow, I can also grab the handles on here and make this narrower or shorter. Like that. And if I hold my shift key while I drag on a handle, it'll stay proportional. So that may be some of the, probably the most important information of any of this is just if you hold the shift key, when you resize something, it stays proportional. Okay. Then we have the direct selection tool. So I was saying that working in Illustrator is working like working with a connect the dots. If I take the direct selection tool and I click on this, I can actually see the dots, and then I can modify these. Like that. And these circular objects, I'll explain more when we get to the pen tool, how those work. Okay. And so we can use so those of you who have done a lot of drawing, may realize that to draw things often involves taking and breaking things up into shapes. So we can take and draw, use these shapes. Copy, Command V. To make things. That are more complex. And object arrange sent back. And then I need to make this circle fill with white. Actually, instead of that, object arrange sent back. And that also needs to be white. So anyway, so you can take these basic shapes that Illustrator can do, and you can make some very some very complex things, actually. Okay. Questions?
So for this assignment, do we have to use Illustrator or could we also use Photoshop?
No, you have to use Illustrator.
Okay.
You could make sketches in Photoshop if you wanted, but the final project is done in Illustrator.
Okay. Yes,
To
sir.
ask that, but okay.
Huh?
I was about to ask if you could also like use it on like Photoshop for the sketches.
Yeah, you could do the sketches in Photoshop if that works for you.
Okay, okay.
I think it's a good idea to use, well, you have a tablet?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, yeah, you could do your sketches in Photoshop if you want. If you don't have a tablet, it's easier to use a pencil and paper, but if you do have a tablet, no problem. Questions? No questions. Then I must not be doing my job right, right? So. What else did I want to say? Oh, right. Okay, so there is another project, an exercise, where I want you to go through these tools, and I want you to find out what they're called, and I want you to find out what they all do. And so I'm going to go back to here. And you have a week to do that.